Welcome to Clay and Conversations. We are very excited today to welcome Selena, Chen, and Matt Watterson, who are visiting from China. So great that you made time for us on your international travels. So thanks. I know that people are going to be kind of walking in and coming in on the Zoom for the next moment or two. I'm going to start, as we always do, by remembering to introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Swilling. I'm the curator and director of artistic programs here at the Clay Studio. We recognize that the Clay Studio stands on the indigenous territory known as Lenape-Hawking, the traditional homelands of the Lenni Lenape people. We would like to take a moment to reflect on the role of the Lenape as the past, present, and future stewards of the land, and the role of all of us to join in the tradition of respect and caring for the land and each other. We have been doing Clay and Conversations since May of 2020. So it's been a long time. And initially it was as a chance for all of us to get some time with each other's faces, because as you may remember, that is when we were stuck at home. And now continues to be a great chance to meet people who are visiting and see all of our community members either in person or online. And I think it's also important to just let everybody know, if you're in the area, please do come in and see. There are two exhibitions in the gallery right now. One is Our Community, and there are over 130 wonderful works of art by staff and students and teachers and board members and resident artists and all kinds of members of the community. And then Lauren Sandler, who is the head of ceramics at Tyler School of Art, also has a solo show in the gallery. So come visit. We are going to get started. I'm going to do a really, really quick introduction, and then Selena and Matt are going to tell us about, I think someone's in the waiting room. They're going to tell us about what they've been working on, and then we'll ask some questions. Selena Chen is an artist, designer, and gallerist from Guangzhou, China. She graduated from Central St. Martin's University of the Arts, London, with a degree in jewelry design, and later expanded her material practice by studying ceramic and glass techniques at Sheridan College in Toronto. Currently based in Jingdezhen, Chen operates Nanak, did I say it right? Okay, ceramic studio and gallery Nanak, and is the founder of Kiln Room's JDZ International Ceramic Art Center. I know we're going to hear more about that. All three spaces operate concurrently as an interconnected platform that supports creative production, curatorial practice, education, and collection. Matt Watterson is an American ceramic artist from Columbus, Ohio, who has lived and worked in Jingdezhen, China since 2018. He is a graduate of the New York State College of Ceramics at Alfred, where he developed a strong foundation in porcelain design and contemporary ceramic practice. He is the founder and director of Kiln Room International Ceramic Art Residency Space in Jingdezhen, an internationally focused platform supporting exchange between ceramic artists from around the world. Through his role, he has contributed significantly to cross-cultural dialogue within the global ceramics community. And we'll hear even more about both Matt and Selena. And we're going to share their PowerPoint or their PDF. And I'm going to hand, where's the other microphone? Do you guys have it? Oh, okay. Turning it over to you.
Okay, so I want to start by just saying thank you for having us. First time here at the Clay Studio, and it's been really amazing to just sort of see everything you guys have built. So really thank you for having us. We're going to start by doing just a little more introduction of both me and Selena, kind of like our backgrounds and the artwork that we make. And then we'll get into a little more of the like historical significance of Jingdezhen and kind of the way that we work there. So my name is Matt Watterson. I graduated from Alfred in 2018, and I moved to Jingdezhen full-time about a month after that, and I've been living there ever since. So I'm a member of the International Academy of Ceramics and then co-founder of Kiln Room JDZ with Selena. And I focus primarily on porcelain design work, ceramic sculpture, ceramic furniture, as well as outdoor installation works with mixed media and metal fabrication. So here you can see just a little bit of the work that I make. So as someone living in Jingdezhen, China for about 8 years now, full time. I would say that I try my best to keep my eyes as open as possible. So a lot of the things that I see there find its way into my work, as well as a lot of like Chinese uh, historical ceramics pieces and Chinese culture finds its way into my work. So if you look in the upper left here, you can see this piece is from my Rebirth series. So I'm really thinking about like what happens when clay fails and like when porcelain fails, and just sort of making that the main focus of the work. So you can see here I have like porcelain cracking and breaking away, but it's revealing this gold surface from underneath.
I wanted to say something about like your piece in the top left corner that's now in my dad's garden, sitting in the middle of a fish pond. It's a very interesting like Chinese story where I think a guy moves out of his hometown and he's been out in a bigger city working his whole life. And then when he is older, he goes back to his hometown and he loses his way because he everything has changed in his hometown. He can't find his way. And so he sees a little kid on a water buffalo and he's asking for direction to go back to his old home. And that is the kid on the water buffalo
Mm-hmm.
in the top left corner, pointing the way to his home. I think that's a very like kind of akin to your own life experience where you've kind of basically like uprooted your whole life and just moved to China right after college. And kind of see that in you.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a very like personal piece.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of like stories and things like that sometimes find their way into my work, as well as you can see with the glazing that I'm doing here, I have a lot of influence from Tang Sancai. So if you've gone to museums and you see the camels and horses with the dripping three-colored glazes, I draw a lot of inspiration from that, as well as blue and white from Jingdezhen. I actually have a little piece here we can pass around if you guys would like to take a look. This is just like a ceramic shard that I found walking along the river, and I'll touch on this a little more, but this is from about the 1600s or 1700s. Sure. Oh, I think we're having trouble going to the next.
So the shard there that you're holding, that's Matt's like favorite hobby is going around the city, just digging up shards.
Yeah. And then here you can see this is a solo exhibition I have in Foshan, China right now, which is quite close to Guangzhou, which, if you're not too keen on Chinese geography, is quite close to Hong Kong. So here you can see I love working with larger scale ceramics, and the piece on the left here is a little over 3 meters, and I'm building it in two pieces and then stacking together, and I have basically just like a stainless steel flange that will get them together. And then you can see some of my other sculptural works and vases and some more of those rebirth pieces here.
The second floor is also part of the exhibition. So you can view the piece from the first floor and also the second floor because there's like some like flower structure on top of the sculpture that you wouldn't be able to see if there wasn't like a second floor to the gallery.
Yeah, so the top is kind of like donut shaped. So you basically can see all the way into the bottom or until it ends from the top. So actually, when I was making this piece, I was envisioning putting it in a place pretty similar to how I'm showing here. Although I had never heard of this gallery or met the curator or anything when I was making it. So that just ended up working out. Yeah. And then this slide here, you can see on the left, this is from the same exhibition. So a lot of that Sansai influence. And then you can see some of the ceramic furniture on the bottom left there. In the center, this is an exhibition that Selena and I had together for Shanghai Fashion Week back in October. So it was a duo exhibition, and we were working alongside a fashion brand there. And they actually took some of the like designs from my glaze, like those patterns, and they turned it into a new like fashion line. Yeah. And then on the right here, you can see a bit more of that, like the glazing that I'm dealing with and the rebirth. So this piece on the right is kind of about like these things that should be guarding and like looking out, but it's almost like when you're too close to something, you can't see anything. So two of them right up in their own faces. And then on the left here, you can see this is just some of my work from the same series in our sculpture garden at the studio. And then on the middle on the right, you can see some more of my ceramic furniture. And I work a little bit with like mixing materials there. So the one in the center is using goat hair and upholstered fabrics. And then the one on the right, I'm actually dealing with movement. So the back is kind of like spring loaded. And when you lean back, it'll have a little bit of give for you to lean back on. And then lastly here, I have a little bit of the like tablewares that I work with. So I would say that if I were always living in the States and making in the States, I would not have any of the work up here right now. So you can see the blue and white there is very strongly influenced by the traditional blue and white in Jingdezhen, China, except I'm kind of giving my own twist to that. So the flowing of this glaze, kind of thinking about the passage of time and just sort of like wetness and water and just sort of that ongoing history that's happening. And then on the left, you can see some of those three-colored glazed cups, drawing inspiration from Sansai ceramics.
And you wouldn't have these because you would have less time doing production work
That's
as
also
well
true,
if
yeah.
you weren't in
Uh-huh.
Jingdezhen.
Yeah, exactly. I would say based on just the production style in Jingdezhen, and then also based on just sort of where I'm drawing my influence from. So we'll touch more on like the historical significance of the city. So part of that is definitely just like having time. I remember when I was in university, it was my last year, and I had one of my advisors telling me like, Matt, you can't do pots and sculpture. Like pick one and do one of them well. Which I think that if I was working full time in the States, that might be true. But just based on the way of working in Jingdezhen, I'm able to kind of like explore both of those.
And never be discouraged.
Me too. Me
Hey,
too.
I'll give you this.
What are you gonna eat?
I'm glad you're doing this.
No, that's not good. Mommy has bread and naan.
I don't want bread or naan.
Welcome.
Just me. Wait, everybody, you just made me.
Help! Help! The woman's touching me.
Be quiet. Stop saying shit.
I am Selena Chen. So I was born in Guangzhou, China, which is a lot of you may not know is the third biggest city in China. So I'm kind of a city girl. I moved to Toronto when I was 11, and then I went to college in London, UK, in Central St. Martin's doing jewelry design. And after that, I was kind of lost in like, because like I'm not that into like wearing jewelry at the time, I was like, okay, I have to like go and explore other materials. So then I went back to Toronto, and then I did 2 years, 1.5 year in Sheridan and Fleming doing glass blowing and ceramics. Actually, 2 years in total. Yeah, ceramics and glass blowing. And after that, I really wanted to like explore the like cities in China, because like Toronto is like relatively small compared to the cities in China. So I moved back to Guangzhou, and then I did 2 years in
Like you. Move back to China.
furniture design and interior
Can you hear
design
me?
at the same time. So I do come from a more like design background compared to Matt. But then after 2 years of working in a company, I realized that ceramics is like my true love. So I did a class in Jingdezhen, which is when I met Matt about 5 years ago, kind of like right before COVID started. And then right after that, I decided to move to Jingdezhen, and because Matt was really like convincing me hard that the rent there would be very affordable. So at the time, it's still affordable now compared to big cities, but he said that I could just like have a studio there for like the entire year, but I would just go back and forth and just stay there for like work there for like a month and then just go back to the city where I'm from. But then I realized once I got there that it was kind of like a black hole. That's what people say about Jingdezhen is like when you like go there, it kind of sucks you in and it's hard to leave because like once you start your work, it's like there's no stopping. And so I've been there ever since like that time.
Anderson,
5 years
I want
ago.
you to come
And
and
I had
get
my
something to
studio,
eat.
and then I slowly opened up my gallery when the studio spot became a very touristy spot. And then I moved my studio to join with Matt's studio in our building, and then started Jingdezhen, kiln room Jingdezhen with him. So another reason why I moved to Jingdezhen is because I wanted to make a life-size porcelain ball jointed doll. So this piece is actually the same height as me. And I at first I tried to like do it myself, like kind of like sculpt it out of clay. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna do my own molds. And then I realized that it was kind of impossible. Even with just like a clay, what do you call it? Like the mother.
Yeah, like the mold that you would be using would just be too heavy to be able to dump all that clay out, especially with all the weight.
Oh, like there's mold makers. There's a whole street full of mold makers and like whole street full of like slip casters. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it there. So I sent my I did 3D, I learned 3D modeling for this piece and I sent my file over to the 3D print shop in Jingdezhen. And he printed it and sent it to my mold maker. And then the mold maker finished the molds and sent it to the slip casters. And so like, it was really completely hands off for me for like the first part of it. And so I could hit the ground running when I moved to Jingdezhen while dealing with like renovating my studio at the same time. So, and also like on top of the doll, I actually learned how to do China painting when I was there because that wasn't something that I learned in Toronto. So I was kind of like adapting to like Jingdezhen really fast that way and kind of finding my way in the city. And then after that, I really wanted to challenge myself. You can like notice that I kind of like jump a lot to different like topics and different like styles. I'm very like different from Matt, where it's like Matt, you're like kind of focused on ceramics, where I'm like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. So I wanted to make a Sleeping Beauty with a cast glass coffin. So on this piece, you can see the cast glass coffin actually weighs about like 600 kilograms. So it needs like 6 men to like carry it. And like I had this
Still heavy with six guys.
Yeah, even with 6 guys, it's like incredibly heavy. And when I had this idea, it actually took me like 1 year to like fully realize it because I wanted the size to be like this big. And so I couldn't find a glass studio that could make a cast glass piece that big. And luckily we're in China. So then we eventually found a glass factory close to Shanghai that could do this kind of work. But it still took like over a month to finally like get this piece done.
Well, it took a month just in the kiln.
Yeah, just in the
Period.
kiln.
In the
And it
kiln
took me a
firing
year
for
to
a month.
find this
Yeah.
glass factory, like not really knowing my way in the glass industry. Had to rely on some glass buddies in the city. And then after that, I wanted to focus more on like more like fun work because I've been doing like very like figurative work with the dolls. So I started doing kind of like funky, poppy kind of sculptures, but you can still see like the mold making process is very like relevant to all of my works. You can see like the clouds there and the hands, and the 3D printing is also like very important to my practice as well. Actually, earlier, like on my profile picture, you can see that is also, I've been dipping kind of back into furniture making. The piece I'm holding, there's actually a mirror that's hanging in our new home right now. And so I'm like kind of all over the place with my work. And after that, oh, that was also in the Shanghai Fashion Week that we were in together. So we put our works together in that collaboration with a fashion brand. And this piece on the left is actually my biggest piece yet. Is also about like 3 meters tall, and that was also in the Shanghai Fashion Week with the fashion brand. They actually hired some like performance artists that did like dance around the sculpture and interacted with the piece on top, which is a blown glass neon piece. And I asked the neon artist that I work with to like make it like interactive. So when you touch it, like the kind of
Follow your hand.
it'll follow your hand. Yeah. So I think that it's pretty cool to do something like that in China. Like, I don't know how I would do it anywhere else because like we actually sent the piece in 3 pieces to Shanghai, and then they built this like crane, the structure around it. And then we had like 8 guys kind of like pulling it up and then like setting it on top.
Yeah,
And
basically building like a scaffolding around and then using a chain lift to get it up there.
so the entire show was only about like 3 days, right? And we set it up and took it down like within 3 days. And then after that, I kind of did a little bit more products with like dolls and stuff. Also, I don't really know how to sew, so I kind of like outsource a lot of my work to people around me and online, which is the good thing about China. And some more other product lines I've been doing. And in the bottom right, you can see like the like a spiky egg kind of design. There's actually like candles inside. I work with a scent mixer very close to our studio. I think the cool thing about being in Jingdezhen is like the entire city is like an art hub. Like you'll always find like different practices, like different artists around you, and like all your friends are artists, and they have their own studios like kind of super close to you. So I met a friend that does like cocktail mixing and also scent mixing. Her cocktails like smells like perfume, but also taste really good. And so I asked her to like create some scents for us. So like I think like my works have been really inspired by people around me as well. So this is our space.
Yeah. So in 2023 or four, we started Kiln Room JDZ, which is our residency space that we have there. We'll touch more on that in a little bit. So I just wanted to touch on sort of like what is Jingdezhen? Where is it? Things like that. Maybe a lot of you have not heard of it before. So Jingdezhen is the China's porcelain capital. You could also say like the world's porcelain capital. So it has a history of porcelain production of over 1,700 years, and that has continued into the present day. So a lot of times when you think of like a historical city that's known for something, you kind of think of like a dead history, and this is something that's ongoing even to this day. So on the left here, you can see some unfired porcelain bowls that are using blue and white. And this is a very traditional design that they have on it that's based off of a local flower. And then on the far right, you can see this is the kiln god holding up the flame, getting ready to light the kiln there. So basically the main idea of what we want to talk with you guys about today is the 72 steps and how that kind of continues into today's way of making in Jingdezhen. So basically, when you think of China today, you kind of think of like the factory of the world, right? So that started with porcelain production. So it's a little bit small here, but if you can see, these are all just like different steps of craftsmen doing one part of porcelain production process. So you can have one person and they mine kaolin, which kaolin, by the way, is Gaolin, which is a village 20 minutes away from Jingdezhen. So that's where it comes from. So someone will mine kaolin and they are an expert at doing that. Another person chops wood and they carry it over to the kiln and they're an expert at doing that. Another person will throw and they're an expert at throwing. Another person will trim. They don't trim and throw, they only trim. And they're an expert at doing that. And on and on and on. Someone will only spray glaze. Someone will only fire the kiln. And one thing I'd like to just say kind of cool about firing the kilns there, back then they don't have like the cones to fire in the kiln. So they would actually just like spit on the door and then see how long it takes for their spit to evaporate to see the temperature. So you can see kind of like by some of these examples, like they're really good at the things that they do, but there's no crossover between that. So how does that relate to Jingdezhen today? Some of you may have seen that video on Instagram of like a couple big shirtless, sweaty guys throwing a big pot together. So that is just like down the road from where our studio is in Jingdezhen. And you can see in the top left here is basically this big vase throwing where they'll have multiple guys that will like apply pressure on each other's hands and you can really just throw these massive things together. We have press molders and all they do is press mold. They don't slip cast. They don't make molds. They only press molds. You have trimmers. They only trim. Blue and white painters and they only paint. You have carvers and they'll only do this porcelain carving. So it's very specialized in the things that they do. And then continuing on with mold makers or people that fire the kilns, or you can see here someone that his job is just carrying fired or unfired ceramics from one place to another place. And that's what he does. And that's it. He doesn't know how to make ceramics. He doesn't know how to fire kilns. He knows how to carry ceramics from one place to another. And he's like a total pro at it. So there's this division of labor that's still continuing in the city today, although some of those processes have been modernized, and just this way of making is still changing. There's still a lot of tradition that happens. So Jingdezhen is still known for its blue and white porcelain production, but there's this new wave of just like makers that come into the city.
And like materials also like very accessible in the city. There's a lot of like streets full of glaze shops and ceramic tool shops, very affordable at the same time. And also like there's like an entire street full of bisqueware. So I think like anyone can just go to Jingdezhen. Like if you don't enjoy making or throwing the piece itself, but you really love like surface decoration, like there's always something for you there. And there's also like like we designed Matt designs the kilns in our studio, and there's also a street full of kiln builders that you can show him your design and he'll just build it for you. And so like I think that the good thing about being in Jingdezhen is that you don't have to be a master at everything. You can be a master at your own ideas and have other people realize it for you.
Yeah, and then I'd like to just point out on the left side here, you can see this is the glaze shops in Jingdezhen. So I know like in the States, we're used to mixing a lot of our own glazes, or you have like a selection from Amico or something like that. There's hundreds of glaze shops around the city, and you basically are just a kid in a candy shop, and you pick out, okay, I want this glaze firing to this temperature in this atmosphere. And then they basically have like recycled plastic water bottles, and they just fill it up in the water bottles and you glaze that way. And then it's the same with the clays there. There's a lot of different kinds of clays that they have. And then we also have like a lot of new kind of technologies that are happening too. So you can see in the center, there's like some 3D scanning. And Selena, you can see, does a lot of like these works that are first drawn and sculpted on the computer. And then she'll send that over to a printer who will print it out in a resin and then go directly to the mold maker. And sometimes we'll go directly to the caster. So then she'll just have her bisque from computer to a physical bisqued ceramic in front of her. And also there's public gas kilns. So when I first moved there, I was fresh out of school and I was the brokest I've been in my entire life, right? So I was just working out of public gas kilns, and I could fire a cup for 50 cents or 20 cents, whatever, you know? So that accessibility to just put it in today and get it out, fired ceramics tomorrow, is pretty incredible. And on the right here, you can see this is a mold factory, or basically just like a mold studio. And here they're making mother molds. So some of the cups that I'm making are from molds, and I'll actually make a mold of the molds that I want to make, and then they can just bump out a ton of them, and I can produce a lot more, and it'll save a lot of time. So along with all the like amazing resources that are in Jingdezhen, from skilled craftspeople to materials, there's also like this collaborative ecosystem. So there's markets that happen every week and actually every day in different parts of the city. And you really just have like a really close connection to the client base that you're kind of aiming towards, and direct feedback from customers as well. And even so with that, you also have like feedback with different artists around you. It's a huge community of makers. I think everyone we know basically has something to do with making and ceramics or something.
I know
like
you call like a ceramic market there, but really there's like so many different types of crafts at the markets.
Yep. And then also kind of what we're doing today, like these sort of like talks and things like that, we have that in the city all the time. On the left here is actually from our Call of the Wilds art festival, and we had a round table during that. And then on the right here, you can see is just sort of like direct access to all these craftspeople and their skills that they've learned from when they were very young, and kind of sharing those skills and techniques on today. And actually on the left here, you can see Tim, who's with us, and he was our resident over the summer.
Most of the like shifus, the masters in the city, have their knowledge passed down by their family. So they're like really like master families.
Yeah, like a third generation thrower or like a fourth generation eggshell porcelain, and they make 2 millimeter thick porcelain bowls that are totally translucent.
We didn't put a picture of that there.
Yeah,
It is. We visited a porcelain, eggshell porcelain studio, and the artist was like a third generation of his family doing the eggshell porcelain bowls, and the one we saw was like this big.
like 1.5 meters or so and less than half a centimeter thick.
It took
incredible.
them. I think he said it took them 20 years
Something like
to
that.
make that bowl.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them had been like crushed and
Yeah, it's
fire.
you can imagine how hard it is to make something 1.5 meters and like 4 millimeters thick.
fully painted layers of China paint on top.
It had blue and white and China paint. So it's like multiple firings over something so delicate. Pretty incredible.
I think they had another one of that bowl that sold to the Macau gambling family or whatever,
Yeah.
family, and it
million or like
no more than like $1 billion.
RMB. Yeah.
RMB.
Yeah. So like millions of dollars. So it was crazy. So this slide here, you can see this is our residency space in our studio. So on the left, that 4-story building there is our personal studio. And then we also have like lunches and stuff on the top floor every day, as well as some living accommodation. And then on the right here, you can see this is our residency space. So we have basically like open floor work plan. And on the left side of that 1st-story building, we have Selina's gallery and shop/coffee shop there. And then this is our sculpture garden that we also have. So we invite people to come and sort of like use our spaces to their own vision, and get their work outside or inside and kind of have this connection to nature, but also the city that we have.
We did also exhibitions like in the sculpture garden as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then these are some of our facilities there. So we have 10 kilns on site total. Out of those 10 kilns, 9 of them I designed and then just worked directly with local craftsmen to have them built. So there's really just like a close connection to like the craftspeople there and really getting exactly what you need. So this electric kiln here is what I fire most of my work in. And it's basically just made to fit the size of sculptures that I like to make, as well as like double layering, doing vases. So I can really get it exactly how I want.
The reason why we started our residency was because like we had like extra space and we're like, well, I feel like our experience is kind of unique in the city. Like we're like I'm Chinese and you're American, but I also have like background and like growing up in North America. So like we really wanted to share like how we experience the city to people coming from overseas and also obviously in China, just like guiding people when they first land in Jingdezhen to like make work like really, really fast. And like to get to what they want like in a short amount of time, because it actually took me about like 3 months to get used to like the clay there, as well as
it took me at least 6 months to kind of just like get a feel for it. So one thing we do at our residency is all the people that we've been working with for 5 years and 8 years, the people that come have direct access to and introduction to, and we kind of like help them get their work done right when they come.
It's kind of like we're kind of like building a network that people can just join in anytime. For example, like if you need any like technical support, like we had an artist this summer that he builds like a bigger sculpture sitting about like over 1 meter tall, and he couldn't move it to the 3D scanning studios. So then the scanner would just come over and scan it for him and like scale it down for him, print it for him. And like he made 20 of that sculpture in a smaller scale. And so we are connected with all the masters in the city. I think that really helps people to make work faster.
Yeah, and then here's just a little more about like kind of connecting with our local craftspeople. And then here you can see this is Selina's gallery. So she's the main curator there and will kind of transform the space every time we have an exhibition there. And you can see along the back here, we have basically this wall of curtains. Behind that, we do live sell every single day. So it's on, I guess in English, you say Red Note. So it's like the Chinese Instagram, basically. And we'll do live broadcasting selling every single day. So that's just another way to kind of like connect our artists with like the Chinese market and getting more well known there. And then this is in our sculpture garden. We'll touch on in just a minute our Call of the Wild art competition. But this is Jason was the winner of that competition and some of his work there. So he was actually he's mostly a installation and performance artist with ceramics.
Professor at Singapore National University, I think.
And he's actually never worked with glass before. And on the top here, you can see we were able to help him make some of these like glass bamboo that connect with the natural bamboo that he has there. So just sort of like getting your hand into some work that you've not been able to do in other places. And then this is Hannah Pierce was our resident over the summer. And we encouraged her to kind of like think about the residency in terms that she wouldn't be able to do in other places. So she primarily works with hand building and then soft slab construction. We encouraged her to work with some of the mold makers and casters while she was there. And she actually made a solo exhibition and taught a class in 6 weeks. So she was really just able to get things going really quick by having access to all these different craftspeople around the city.
She also took traditional technique classes like blue and white and shadow carving at the same time too, and that really influenced her work in the solo show.
Mm-hmm. And then here you can see on the right is just a field trip we did to one of the big vase factories. So they have vases that are 3 times bigger than human scale, and they'll throw things and then actually assemble basically like these donuts and stack them together. But the material is quite different there. So they'll actually assemble them when they're bone dry, which I don't know if you know, rule number 1 of ceramics is don't do that. So the material is really like so different there. And there's a lot of different ways to work with it. And then over the summer, we had Selina's brainchild, the Call of the Wild. I'll let you introduce.
Oof, that was a big project. So it took us like a few months to prepare for this art festival slash art competition. It was called Call of the Wild because I had an idea that like Jingdezhen is very like fertile art ground, and I felt like me and Matt were kind of like seeds just like arriving in the city, and now we're like growing into trees, and now we want to kind of like help others take root in the city. And so our competition, we had an open call online for 3 international artists and 3 Chinese artists to come over to our studio to do a 2-week residency slash making session. And each competitor would have their own mentor that we invited into the competition. 6 local artists. Actually, Matt was one of them. And then each mentor would help their competitor like make and get used to the city like as soon as possible. So then they could really produce a big amount of work for our sculpture garden to show in 2 weeks. And at the end of the competition, we had 2 days of art festival. Tourists and like people or friends, everyone would just come in, and we had food stalls, we had performances, we had like DJ playing music, drinks, everything for 2 days. And everyone could use their ticket to vote for the artist that they liked. So they saw their work in the sculpture garden and then talk with the artist and then voted for them. And the other half of the votes came from a professional panel of judges that we invited from galleries around the country to also like judge their work. Mm-hmm. And the prize for the competition was 1 year free residency at our space.
Yeah, so here on the top left, or on the top of this slide, you can see this is Christiane Tao, who was my artist that I was working with. And she's actually been working with porcelain longer than I've been alive. But I was still her mentor for the competition just because of the the experience that I have working in Jingdezhen and the connection with the different masters there. So on the left, you can see this is one of the throwers. We actually got a team of throwers that came, and she built basically these just like bare, burnt tree trunks was her idea. So they're about this high, and we actually had all of those thrown in a morning for her and then assembling. So really just the speed that we were able to work with the local craftsmen was pretty incredible.
Yeah, our competition started at 10 a.m. that morning. Everyone met their mentor. By 12 o'clock, she had all her cone
Yeah.
thrown,
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah. It
On the
was
first day.
pretty quick. And then here you can see some of the finished pieces that they have there. In the center, in the top there is Jason's piece was our winner. And he was actually working with someone, his local mentor was half his age and specialized in glass. So we opened the competition to all different kinds of mediums. And because he was working with his glass mentor, she encouraged him to basically add glass into his piece in some way. And we worked with Flameworking to basically make this glass tube bamboo that he connected his work to. And he's never worked with glass before. So he was able to basically like try this work in a new way. And on the left, bottom left here, you can see we actually had a Chinese fashion bag designer. And she worked with leather and then
Nice.
hand-built ceramics with her piece.
We really wanted to have like people from all like practices to come together and kind of like build alongside each other for 2 weeks and like just share each other's like experiences and like celebrate it at the end of the
Mhm.
competition with the 2 days art festival with everyone in the city. So we actually ended up having like 500 or 600 people coming over the 2 days. It was a really like big celebration, and it was like fun for everyone, I think. And like kind of we wanted to share like what we loved about the city into 2 days, like compress it into 2 days, like nature, food, drinks, friends, music, performance, like everything just into 2 days. And it was a big celebration of art and community.
Yeah, I like to tell people that basically my experience in Jingdezhen is almost like being back in university, where I have so many different like-minded people around me that are interested in craft and art and just sort of this like free way of thinking. And then my professors, if you want to say, is all the different craftspeople that have this knowledge that's been handed down decade after decade, century after century. And you really have direct access to learning from them and influencing your work in that way. And then at the end of our exhibition, we're actually doing a tour going to some different galleries around the country. So just sort of doing our best to help our artists to share their work with a greater audience. Yeah, so we would love to open up kind of the conversation part of this. Jingdezhen is really just for us a place that obviously that we call home at this point. But like I said, it really is a place where there's just this history that's passed down year after year. We have access to all of this knowledge and history and just like really warm people all around us. And yeah, we're happy to share that with you. So we're happy to open up the kind of like conversation part of that. Yeah.
That's great. Wow, those are beautiful photos and yeah. It's really inspirational how much you've like what you've built. That's amazing. Congratulations. Well, I'm gonna do a quick version of the question that we always ask because we don't have a heck of a lot of time left, and I'm sure people have questions for you, but I do want to hear. So you talked about sort of how you launched into this, starting from when you had already decided to be art students. So can you talk a little bit about what inspired you before that? So the question is, how and why did you make the brave decision to make your life in art? And it can start when you were young, when you were thinking about going to art school, or at any point.
So I think that like I have a similar story to a lot of people that are working with clay. It's like I started when I was in high school. And I don't know, there was like my freshman year, I really wanted to take a ceramics class, but they didn't have any availability during that time. So I took a fiber arts class and it was really great, learned a lot. But there's like the pottery rooms in the background. So I'm like, so cool. And I'm like seeing people's work on the shelf. And I always really wanted to try it. And it was really just like as soon as I touched clay, the materiality of it, the warmth of it, the memory, the humanness, I was really drawn to. And I decided to go to school for ceramics the last semester of my senior year because I didn't know that could be like a thing you do with your whole life. I didn't think of it as a career. I thought of it kind of as a hobby during that time. And I think basically my vision when I was starting university is like, oh, I'd love to like find a wife eventually to basically like have a studio together with, and we'll have like our studio out in the woods and both make work together. And it kind of took a long time, and I never really thought too much about it until we ended up getting married. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing that, and my out in the woods and making work there. Um, but I went to Jingdezhen just like a month or so after graduating university, and it was just sort of off of like recommendation of, oh, I think you'd like be interested in this place, Matt. Okay, I'll give it a try. So I moved there and I was working for an international studio, and I was basically like the tech slash assistant for all the artists coming through. And I had a 3-month contract. And when that ended, I still had some more time on my visa. And I basically just sort of stuck around and ended up building up my studio, and the rest is history.
Well, it sounds like there was definitely a brave moment in like, oh, I'll just move to China. Okay.
No, that was his stepping point for moving to Thailand eventually. Because you love Thailand, right? But then I think, like, as I was saying, like, Jingdezhen is like a black hole.
I think people end up just living there longer and longer. I never,
I'll leave in 3 months. Never mind. You're there like for 30 years.
I never actively moved there. I just sort of stayed longer and longer, and now I live there. So
Got it. Okay. Thanks. How about you, Selena?
Well, actually, I really like because my family, we're like a family of businessmen. So like I never really had any thoughts of like being an artist until I was in high school, and we had like a really nice like arts program in my high school. So we were like required to make like one art piece every month for the last 2 years of high school. And so it got me thinking of like where do I want to go to college? And I guess my counselors like provided a few like options, and I was like, oh, like London was one of them, and I was like, well, I've never been to Europe or like lived there, and I saw that as an opportunity to just travel. So like I think like my love for like traveling and like moving to different places was also part of the reason why I wanted to make art. Is I think like it's a great way to connect with people. Like even to this day, like as I'm like less of a maker than you are. I like because I have my shop. I talk with a lot of artists. I kind of get to know them that way. I even like collaborate with the residents coming into our studio to make work and like show at my gallery. I think that's kind of like how I make friends. I think we connect on a deeper level that way, and it's also like exciting opportunity like to this day for me to like travel to different places and like here I am in Philadelphia. Like I don't think I would ever be here without like this opportunity, to be honest. So I think it's really great. Like traveling, friends, connecting is like the best part of like making art.
That's great. I love that. It definitely is. I mean, the point of making art and looking at art is for me always making connections, and to think of it that way is great. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? So I'm going to remind folks on Zoom that if you have a question, please put it in the chat and we will read it out loud for you. Micah has a question.
So I just want to say thank you both for coming in today and sharing your experience. This was really cool to see. I had 2 questions actually. My first question was for international artists that are invited, whether at your studio or just coming to Jingdezhen, how accessible or how do you overcome like language barrier, right? And how accessible is that? Is it easy to find interpreters or people who are also English speaking? I've also done some work in Vietnam, and I found like a lot of young people speak English, right? I'm assuming it's common over there as well in China. So that's my first question. And then my second question is, whether you guys at your studio at the Kiln Room or Jingdezhen in general, right? A lot of these opportunities seem really fantastic and a lot of people want to pursue them, but obviously for young and emerging artists, it can be cost prohibited. So what do you guys do as steps to perhaps open the doorway for folks? I know you had your contest initially for your inaugural opening, but as well, is there anything that you think moving forward can help buttress those costs or models that you see often in the city too as well?
Sure. So as far as your first question for language barriers, so at our residency, we have a studio manager and a studio assistant, and they both have like really good English. And they help for like connecting with our mold makers where especially people coming from ceramics background, you kind of know what you want to do, but it's hard to communicate if you like don't know the people, don't know the language, don't know the culture, everything like that. So we help a lot along the way with that. But I would say even so, like Google Translate is so awesome now. So like Tim was one of our residents over the summer, and I gave him the same advice that I give basically all of our residents is like we have this little like electric moped is the way that everyone gets around the city. So we have one for our residents to use. I'm like, here's a keys, here's a helmet, go get lost. So I point him in the right direction, like you should get lost in this area. So he went there and he basically was just like driving around, walking around, looking in studios. Like you basically have direct access to so many different people and studios and things like that. And he was trying to learn a little bit about like the Jingdezhen way of throwing and trimming. So he was walking into some different studios there. You just sort of like, hey, can I look around? They're like, yeah, it's okay, no problem, no problem. And he ended up having what, like an hour and a half conversation over tea and Google Translate with one of the the studio owners there. So yeah, people are like really open and welcoming to communicate with. Um,
But I have to say, not everyone is as outgoing as Tim, though.
that's
And it's okay if you're a shy person because we do have like our assistant and our director, and also the two of us. For you to just like ask any questions you want, and like it's important to join like a community when you're in a new city. And so there's a big community in the city of foreign artists, and also like it's important to call be friends with local artists as well. So that's why we did the art festival, like half Chinese and half like foreigners. And I think that really like people are always happy to help. You just have to like kind of understand the culture a little bit more before you ask them for requests and things like for example like the shufus there, like the masters, like if you ask them to make a mold, they'll like make a lot of fuss about it. It's not about like the language barrier, it's just like kind of their personality. Like eventually you'll get used to them like rejecting you, and then you just have to like leave your stuff there, be like you can do it. And that's just a way to communicate with like people there. Like it takes a while to get used to, but I think like going through like our residency, you definitely like we offer a lot of help with that.
And then your second question on costs. So first and foremost, like me and Selena are artists ourselves. We've done residencies in different places, and like I've done residency where I do a kiln firing, and I'm like, this is a lot more expensive than what you're paying to get this kiln fired by a lot. And that's not the best situation to be in. So we really do our best to keep prices as low as possible from the get-go. From like we do lunches for what is it converted like $3 a day, something like that. And then we have our kiln firings are basically like we don't make any money on that. We just have like the costs of um, the electricity or gas, things like that, plus like a small maintenance fee to just like keep upkeep and things like that. And then through our residency, we actually have like a couple different routes of artists coming. So for a bit more established artists, and some up and coming artists will do by invitation, where we'll collect a percentage of their work if we think that we have a market for selling with Selena's shop. And then there's also ways of like teaching classes and things like that. And then we also have paid residents that will come in and also do kind of like a little bit of donation, a little bit of pay here, things like that. So we do our best to keep things low, and then we do have a couple different routes for even more on top of that.
So do people apply? They go on your website and apply for whichever version they think they can do, or how does it work?
Yeah. So we have our Instagram and our website with email and things like that. We're basically like a project-based residency most of the time. So people can come and kind of like show the project they're interested in doing, and then that also helps us to prep in advance. So, for example, if you don't have that much time and you want to make like a bunch of cups while you're there, you could technically like send us a file and we could have it printed and molds made and square like ready for you before you arrive.
Yeah.
So things like that are possible. But I think that the way that we do, whether it's invited or like a paid residency, will be a little bit on a artist to artist basis. So shoot your shot and we'll see what we can do.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to know. Who else has a question?
Because like there's so many residencies in the city. Honestly, you can like apply to a bigger like government funded residency for a free residency. There are chances like that. But I would have to say that their residencies are a lot bigger and it would be harder to get help like you would in our in our residency.
Okay, Celia.
I was wondering if you could speak to like the way that having access to all of the master craftsmen and these processes that you couldn't do by yourself and like the speed and ease that you can now do them with, like how does that impact your creative process?
Oh, well, I've always been a designer first. And so like when I was in school, like learning how to make molds and like throwing and trimming, I honestly like really didn't enjoy it too much. I just like for me, like realizing the idea was the best part of making for me. And I really didn't want to deal with like repetitive works. And I know a lot of people do enjoy that, but I don't personally. So like Jingdezhen was a great fit for me because I can kind of like offload all those works to the masters. And so I could really focus on my ideas. But I do think that if people really enjoy making, there's still like a chance to like take, like learn from the masters that are really good at their techniques and like kind of develop your work that way. And obviously, like Matt, a lot of people like see our works and sometimes think that Matt's work is my work because it's like very Chinese influence. And I think you wouldn't be making those works if you weren't in Jingdezhen.
And then also I can just show an example for my work here too. So cups are like a duh obviously for me because I'm doing like casting for a lot of them. And if I were doing all these on my own, it would just take me so much time that I can't maintain other practices as well. So just being able to like I'll make that first one and then I'll help to get some molds made that the shape will remain the same, but I'm working more on surface for variety between like one cup to the next. That helps me tremendously to just sort of like have more options to work in different ways. And then also if you look it's hard to see here. On the left, you see that table kind of like sitting there. There's almost like these little dots that go around it. So those are actually all like individually hand painted China painting over it. So I'm doing this three-colored glaze that's on top. And then on top of that, I'm covering it almost like a veil that you can see through of three different colors of these hand painted clouds that are on there. So I'm working with local craftspeople to be able to like give them my vision of what I want to do. Could I do that by myself? Yes. I can take the time to learn and go through all those testing and everything like that. But I can also just have a direct conversation with that master and tell them what I'm trying to get done. And then they can put the time in. They're the overglazed painter that I work with, it's him and his dad together. So it's really just like generationally, they're doing the same thing. He's really good at it. He's really nice and easy to talk to, and it saves me a lot of time. And I'm able to make, I would say, like different work than I would otherwise make if I was doing the full process by myself.
I just want to mention that those cups are available in the functional gallery at the Clay Studio in case you need one. A little plug. I don't know. I don't know if we have the multicolored ones. I don't think we do. Okay, so we're pretty much out of time unless someone has a very burning question. Any burning questions? Okay, well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming, spending your time here, and telling us about your wonderful kiln room and residency.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And for everyone that's here still, we'll be around for a little while. If you have a question that you weren't able to ask or want to just chat, we're happy to.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks. Bye, everyone on Zoom. See you later.